Okie doke, so in this video we are gonna go back to hopefully middle school and talk about flip, slide, turn, but we're gonna give it some new fancy vocabulary words, okay? So look at the Fulton Falcon. We're gonna see whether it flipped, whether it took a slide, or whether it took a turn. So we noticed that this Falcon was turned on its side, so that'd be a turn, and the geometric notation for that is now going to be called a rotation. And no, this is not on your notes, just listen. Number two, I just moved that Falcon from the left to the right. I didn't flip it, I did not turn it, and that is called a translation, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And then lastly, that third Falcon, it flipped on its other side, and that would be called a reflection, which again is what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be dealing with translations and reflections. Reflections is probably going to be a separate video lesson. So for translations, a translation on the coordinate plane is a slide or of a point or a figure. So we can slide a point around, or we can slide a whole entire figure around. So in order to slide the figure, you're going to move the figure the number of spaces in the direction indicated. Okay, so let's talk about some notation. So notation is how we write something. So when you move from an original shape to a new shape. So for example, I've got this triangle ABC, right? And I want to move that shape, I want to translate it somewhere else. What you're going to call it is A prime, B prime, C prime. So you'd say A with a little prime. So that's going to note that that's a new shape. And then we would call it B prime and C prime. So when I'm looking for your answer on a quiz or something, I'm going to be looking to see whether you put those primes, because that's going to tell me that's your new image, okay? So when you write the rule, here's what writing a rule looks like. So you're going to say, here's my point, x, y. And you're going to draw an arrow. So what I'm doing is I'm moving it, okay? So then you're going to say either x plus or minus a 4, and then a y plus or minus a 2. So what it means is if you go right, that's going to be positive. Okay? So if you're going right, it's positive. And then this is saying go a negative direction, which is going to mean down in that case. Okay? So again, the x-axis goes from left to right. So if it says x plus 4, that means take your shape and move it to the right 4. The y is going to be dealing with moving up or down. So for example, if this y was a positive, that would mean I needed to go up 2. But instead it said y was a negative, so I need to go on the y-axis down 2, okay? All right. So let's take a look at some practice. So the directions say write the rule for the translation. So first off, my rule is always going to start with x comma y with an arrow. Okay? So it's called arrow notation. So I need to go from this black figure up here down to this blue figure down here, because here are my primes. So typically they're going to go from the black to the blue. Okay? So to do that, you need to pick any point you want. Let's pick G. That'll be my favorite point for today. So I need to figure out what happened to put G all the way down here, okay? So I'm going to look about my x-axis first. I'm going to see if it went left or right. So I can tell that it went right, and so we'll count. It went right 1, 2. And now it's in line with that other G point. So to say it went right 2, I would say I moved the x in the positive direction 2. Okay? So now I'm going to look at my y, which is whether it went up or down. Now I needed to move that point down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since I went down 5, I would say y minus a 5. Okay? Now we could double check it with any other point we wanted to. So let's take a look at point F. So let's see if this rule that we wrote works. So can I go right 2 and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and hit that? Yes. Okay? So that would be a correct rule. All right? So why don't you guys try this one on your own? Press pause and write the rule. Remember, you're going from the black shape to the blue shape. This rule, I saw that D, for example, went left 1, so I wrote x minus 1. And then it went down 3, 1, 2, 3, so y minus 3. Okay? So if you have any questions on that, let me know. But that's how you write a rule for a translation. Whoop. All right, so now let's look at, can we graph an image if they give us the rule? Okay? So here's our rule. X is going to go -2 and then y -3. So what that means in words, because I enjoy words better, -2 is going to mean left 2. because x is going to go left or right. And then that y, that negative 3 is going to mean it's going to go down 3. So basically, I need to take all these points and go left 2 and down 3. So let's start with point P and go left 2, down 3, make a point. Now it's important that you call it P prime, okay? So then I'm going to take this point T and go left 2, down 3, and call it T prime. Lastly, Q, left 2, down 3. Whoops, right there. It's going to be called Q prime. And then B, left 2, down 3. Okay, now it is okay if your shape is going to overlap. But we're going to connect those points. And that looks a whole lot like the shape that I drew, except I moved it left 2 and down 3. Okay? All right, so why don't you try this number 4 on your own, press pause, and then we'll go over the answer. Hope this little x by itself did not trip you up, but if there is no number with the x, what that means is you shouldn't go left or right. So if there was no number with the y, that means I don't go up or down. Okay, so my shape is not going to move left or right at all, it's just going to go down 1. So notice the C moved where that point F was, and I called it C prime. F moved down 1, J moved down 1, okay? All right. So let's talk about some trickier problems. Let me make this smaller. So it says under this rule, where x is going left 4 and the y is going up 5, ABC has translated vertices. A prime is here, B prime is here, C prime is here. So it wants us to find the coordinates of ABC. So what they gave us is they gave us the new shape and they want us to go backwards and find the old shape, okay? So first off, let me plot A prime, B prime, and C prime. All right, so here is my shape. Okay, so I need to go backwards. So if this happens, you're going to do the opposite of that rule, okay? So instead of going negative 4, I need to go a positive 4, which means I should go right 4. And instead of a positive 5, I really need to go negative 5, which means go down 5, okay? Because this rule is what takes you from the first triangle ABC to the new triangle. So if they give you the new triangle and you have to go find the old triangle, you're going to do the opposite. So I'm going to go right 4 and down 5. And there's my A. Remember, it's the original. Here's my B. And my C, okay? So again, how that makes sense is if this triangle is my original and it wants me to go left 4 and up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it worked, okay? So that's what happens if they give you the prime image. Now let's talk about another way. So we're going to do this one together and then you're going to try the last two on your own. So I have triangle FGH and that is moved to triangle MNP. So that's something to notice. You don't always have to move to a new prime image. It can have just different letters as well. So they give you F, G, M, and P. So they give you the first 2 points of the first triangle and they give you 2 points of the other triangle, okay? So let's graph this first. F is at 3, 9. And then G is at negative 1, 4. And I'm missing that third part of that triangle. So I'm going to switch colors here and talk about M, which is at 4, 2. And then P. which is at 6, -3. All right, so what we need to do is kind of see which points correspond with which. So I know F, G, and H, that became M, N, and P. So what I know is that F should go to M, G should go to N, and H should go to P. So I know F and M right here. This is the original shape, and then this is going to be the new shape. But I don't know about anything about point N, and I don't know anything about point H. So what I need to do is I need to use these 2 points to create a rule and see what happened to this triangle. So how can we go from F to M? Well, I need to go right 1, and then I need to go down how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so if I start with this triangle and I go right 1 and down 7, I should get this M and P triangle. But if I want to go backwards, I should go left 1 and up 7. Okay? All right. So let's try going from G to finding point N. So I have a point G, so I can follow this rule of going right 1 and down 7 to get point N. So let's go right 1 and down 7. Okay, that's going to be point N. Okay, so now I have a little triangle. How cool. But I'm still trying to find that third piece of that red triangle up here. And so I'm trying to see where P will give me point H. So again, if the rule was to go right 1 down 7, if I'm going backwards, I'm going to go left 1 up 7. So I'm going to start at P and go left 1 up 7. And that should be my new letter of a H. Okay. All right, so that is tricky. So it wanted us to find the coordinates of H and N. So our final answer, let's see, H is going to be at 5, 5, 4. And then point N was going to be at 0, -1, 2, 3. Okay, so again, this is a very tricky problem, okay? So if they give you 2 points of one triangle and 2 points of another triangle, you've got to see which ones relate to each other, okay? I found that F went to M. So I found some rule from going from this red triangle to this blue triangle. And then I made sure it worked for all the rest of the points to get my missing ones, okay? All right, so you're going to try the next 2 on your own. One is kind of pretty simple, and again, one is like a problem that we just did. So try these 2 and then we'll go over them. All right, so for the first problem, here's my new ABC triangle. So again, they gave you the prime image and you had to go backwards. So instead of going right 2 and down 5, you had to do the opposite and go left 2 and up 5. So I made sure I did that for all the points. Make sure that you do not put primes on those because that is the original image, okay? So let me know if you have questions on that one. Lastly, this one was pretty tricky. Okay, so you had to go from LMN to EFG. And notice they only gave you 1 point from that original image, which was point M. But they did give you all of that second triangle. Okay, so you had to go from N to M and find a rule. And so from going from M to F, you had to go up 1 and left 1. And that gave you the green image, okay? So again, from going from this triangle to the new one, you had to go up 1 and left 1. But since they gave you this whole bottom triangle and you had to work to find L and N, you had to go backwards. So I needed to go down 1 and right 1 if I started at EFG to go backwards. So I started from E and I went down 1 and I got right 1, and that gave me L. And I started at G and went down 1, right 1, and then that gave me point N, okay? So again, that one was pretty tricky, but we will definitely get some practice with that. There is lovely IXL, L1, L2, L4 are translations, and then you can watch the video on reflections next, or practice IXL. It's up to you guys, okay? Thanks for watching.